Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're going to make it's actually my wife's family's recipe. It's called Skillet Runzas. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a Runza is, depending on your location. Basically, it's a meat, cabbage, creamy sandwich covered in bread. But if I am correct, I believe we only have Runza restaurants in Nebraska. That's where I'm at. So what we're going to get started with first is we are going to need a pan, and we're going to need 2 pounds of hamburger. Let's go ahead and get started frying those up. And I buy my hamburger in bulk, so that way I can just package it up so you get a little bit bigger discount doing it that way. I think I get mine for roughly about $3 a pound for hamburger, depending on where you are. Might be a little cheaper, might be a little bit more expensive. So what we're also going to need is when we are frying up our hamburger, what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and chop up an onion. And depending on who you're making this for, they might like it finely chopped, they might like a rough chop. It's however you want to do it. I do mine a little bit more fine, just so that way some people that don't like onions still like the flavor, but they don't like to see them. So what we'll do first is we will go ahead and get our onion chopped up. Alright, and all I do, just slice off the ends, give it a score right down the side of it, and then I just peel off basically the first rough layer of onion. Give it a quick rinse along with my knife. And I would say that this onion here is, and if you like onions more, go ahead and do a bigger onion. But if you like smaller onions, or you don't like onions as well, do a smaller onion. This is probably a small to a medium onion. And I'm going to just do 4, and then we're just going to go ahead and just do a fine chop on it real quick. Nothing too spectacular. And hopefully you can hear the hamburger frying. And what we'll want to do is go ahead and throw the onion in with the hamburger as you're frying it. Now what that'll do is it'll help to cook the onion to what's called translucent, which is almost see-through. It becomes very soft, very good. I really like it that way. So let's go ahead and get that in the pot. We'll give this a quick rinse. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and brown up our hamburger. Turn on the Mint Man, very important. So what I'll do, guys, I'll go ahead and get this browned up, and we'll come back and get the cabbage chopped for us. We'll be right back. Alright, now we've got our hamburger under control and in with the onions, and it's still browning. Let's go ahead and get our cabbage cut up. Alright, now the way that I usually do cabbage is there is a stem inside here. So what I'll do is and I package it up in baggies that I have, nice and small, if it might crisper, things like that. Nice big one like this, going to take up a lot of room. So what I do is I turn it over, go right down the middle. Alright, cut it in half. Turn it over. One more time. Just like that. Alright. So we're only going to need about 1/4 of a head of cabbage. I believe the recipe calls for 4 cups of shredded cabbage. So let's get out a measuring cup, and we can see how close 1/4 of this cabbage is going to be. Now, if you would like to go ahead and purchase a coleslaw mix bag, it's got a little bit of shredded carrots in there. That's all right. Tastes good if I'm in a rush or I can't find a cabbage. something along those lines, that's what I'll do. I'll just go ahead and grab one of those. So what I want to do is I got to cut out this stem here. So I usually just turn it kind of sideways and just cut that out. Cuts out the stem just fine for me. Then what I do is I go ahead and inspect the outside. It's got a little blemish there. So let's just go ahead and peel that one off. And the next one just real quick. Alright, so we should be good to go with this now. Now what we'll do is when I shred mine, I'll cut it one way because I don't really want really long strips in my skillet runzas. I like nice small pieces of cabbage, just so almost everything inside the runza has almost the same size of consistency. So that way you don't have big pieces of cabbage and big pieces of onions and then little small pieces of hamburger. So what I do is I just slice it on down one way, and once I get down so far, I'll turn it over, make it a little easier, and just keep slicing all the way up to the end as far as you can go. Alright, now these fill up pretty big. That's why when I said a quarter and it doesn't look that big, once these start breaking apart, they fill up quite a bit of room. Right? And that's why I like to cut them nice and small. And I just cut them back the other way, and it cuts them basically into like little squares. Alright. Now I'll bring one to you so that way you can see it. Little squares or triangles, basically what they cut them up into. Now that's going to be just about the perfect size because they will wilt down when we put them in to our meat mixture. Now this is a 4-cup measuring cup, and we're going to put everything in there, and I would say this is probably a medium-sized head of cabbage, and as you can see it fills it up basically to the top, and that's what you're looking for. You know, you don't have to push it down to where it's, you know, smashed in there and everything else like that. That's just fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this over to our browning hamburger. Now we are not going to add it yet. We're going to actually wait until we drain the grease or the hamburger fat out of the onion and hamburger mixture. That, after we drain it, is when then we will go ahead and add our cabbage. So until then, I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up again, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, and we're back. Now the hamburger is finishing up. It's browned, and the onions are going to what's called translucent. Kind of translucent there, real nice and soft. So what we're going to do is go ahead and drain the grease. And I always drain mine into a colander, from a colander into a bigger bowl. I do not put it down my sink drains. Alright. So we'll go ahead and get that drained off there. Now, this next step, what we're going to do is we are going to wipe this out real quick. Okay. Then, what we're going to do is we're going to use, it calls for a 1/4 cup of water. Alright, now what this is going to do is it's going to help to steam down the cabbage. Cold water, 1/4 cup, put it in the bottom there. Now we're putting that in with the hamburger and the onions. Okay, we'll give that one quick little shake for good measure. Put that down in there. Now we're cooking over medium-high heat. Alright, get all the rest of the onions out of there. Okay, now we already got that 1/4 cup of water in there. So we'll go ahead and put in our cabbage. Okay, just like that. Now the reason why we put in the 1/4 cup of cabbage, or I'm sorry, the 1/4 cup of water, is because the hamburger at medium-high heat would then again just start to burn to the bottom. So this just gives it a little bit more moisture in there to go ahead and wilt down that cabbage. All right. So we're going to need a lid. All right. right, I found the lid. Got to put it on there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just steam this down. It's been maybe about 2-3 minutes, somewhere around in there. Give it a quick stir. All right, we're getting the cabbage and everything kind of up to temperature. It's going to wilt down. All right, so now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and turn this down even further and give that cabbage a chance to really get nice and tender. So we're going to go ahead and put that down on medium heat. Okay. Then what we can do is we're going to go ahead and start making our biscuits for the topping. So what we're going to need first is 3 cups of flour. We've got a little small one here, and then we'll get out the new one. All right. 1 cup. Let's just go with the big one. And like I said, once again, I buy my flour in bulk, just like my hamburger, just like my sugar, and then I package it up, 2 cups, so that way I save a little bit of money there. And 3 cups. So 3 cups of flour. I'll go ahead and reportion those back into that bigger one because I bought them on the same day. We've got 3 cups of flour. Then what we're going to need is 4 teaspoons of baking powder and then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do our 4 teaspoons, and I use double acting baking powder. So we'll go with 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ha, ha, ha. Alright, the count off Sesame Street, I love it. Alright, let's do 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Alright, I believe we are up to our shortening. 1/3 cup of shortening, and then 3/4 of a cup of milk up to 1 cup of milk. We're going to do 1/3 cup of shortening. And once again, you always want to keep an eye on your cabbage and meat mixture. We turned it down to medium. So we're letting all the cabbage in here get smaller and smaller and start wilting down even more and more. It's still got a little ways to go. So now we can get back to making our biscuits. Now, also at this time is usually when I start making the biscuits is when I go ahead and preheat my oven. We're going to preheat it to, let's look at the instructions here, 450 degrees. Alright, so we've got that preheated. Now, with this recipe as well, if you want to double up the batch, this does make a really good freezer meal as well. Once again, put it in a glass dish or a metal pan. Then what you can do one day before you want to use it, pull it out of the freezer, put it into the fridge, give it a chance to defrost. I do not like it when it goes in the microwave. It just doesn't taste as good to me. So let's go ahead and grab a spoon, and we'll go ahead and put 1/3 of a cup of shortening in here. And I always pack it down to make sure that I'm getting that 1/3 cup of shortening. Alright, so 1/3 cup of shortening going in. Okay, that can go in the sink. Now this is where I usually go with 1 cup of milk. So let's go ahead and first get the flour, salt, and baking powder and everything. I am just making a mess everywhere. But we'll go ahead and get this kind of mixed together a little bit. The shortening. So we'll go with a half. Actually, we're going to go with 1 cup. I apologize. Getting all flustered. Alright. Go with 1 cup of milk. So let's go ahead and get all that mixed in together. Start off slow, Nick. Alright. So as this is all mixing around, get that all mixed and integrated in together. And then when I start off with a spoon, but then I will turn it into actually using my hands. And then, you just kind of go from there as far as how much milk. All right, so like I said, you can do it any which way you want. It just however it works out for you. Now you also can use store-bought canister biscuits. Those work great too. I don't prefer the taste as much, just because I like home-cooked, homemade biscuits a little bit more. But you always can just, if you're in a rush, need to do that, just go ahead and pick up some store-bought biscuits and throw them on there. It works just as well. Alright guys, so what we're going to do, I'll come back. We're still cooking our cabbage, onion, and ground beef. But we'll come back and I'll go ahead and get the biscuit dough rolled out. And by that time we should be able to put our cream of mushroom soup and our cream of celery soup into our mixture here. Don't really even have to cook that. We're just warming it up. That's about it. Then it'll go in the oven, 450 degrees for, looks like 10 to 15 minutes, or until the biscuits are brown. We'll be back. Oh, you're back. Just kidding. Alright, so our cabbage is wilting down real nice. Nice small pieces in there. No, I didn't call dogs. Go. So, we've got our small pieces in there. So let's go ahead and get our cream of mushroom and cream of celery soup in. Now, use the condensed cream of mushroom soup, the 10.5 ounce. Same thing with the celery, okay? Now, I always give them a shake beforehand, just to kind of loosen everything up from the sides. So it just kind of pops right out. Alright. And now, we go in with the cream of celery. Okay. So we've got our two soups in there. Those. Now we're just going to want to mix this all around. Now, we don't want to leave this on medium because it will start to burn the bottom. So we're going to turn it down to low, not simmer. So I guess it would be medium-low, somewhere around in there. So we're going to want to mix this all together. It makes just a really nice, creamy mixture. And just make sure you get it all mixed together. And then what we're going to let this do is we're going to let this sit and kind of slowly warm up, cook just a little bit with the cream of mushroom and cream of celery soup in there for about 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on how long it takes me to get my biscuits ready. Okay, so this is what it kind of turned out to be. Nice, creamy, filling. Alright, that's what it kind of turned out to be. Turns out it's good if you eat it just like this, but it's even better with the biscuits. So, let's go ahead and put the cover on that. Once again, we've got that on medium-low. Now, and I decided that we're going to go ahead and roll this out. Alright, so I mixed it all together. It's not too dry, it's not falling apart or anything, the biscuit mix here. And what we're going to do is, I really don't feel like getting out my roller. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of push this out into roughly how big our glass dish is that we're going to be going in with our meat mixture. Okay? So just kind of by looking at that, looking at this, we can kind of guesstimate. I don't know why I love that word so much. So we'll get this all pushed out. Roll up the sides a little bit, or push up the sides, whatever size you think that the, pretty close. So what we'll do is push that out just a little bit more, then what we'll do is we'll put the meat mixture, when it's ready, we'll put the meat mixture in the glass dish. Then we'll go ahead and cover the top with our biscuit. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Our oven is still preheating, so it's going to be just a few more minutes, but let's go ahead and get our meat mixture and our biscuit dough into the glass dish, get it ready to go in the oven. So we've been, turning the heat off, it's been about, I would roughly estimate, about 10 minutes or so. And as you can see, it's just steaming now. I don't know if you can see the steam, I can. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right into the glass dish. We don't butter it, we don't grease it or anything like that, because there's enough moisture in all of this stuff in here that it won't stick. So let's go ahead and get that. While I was waiting, I had a little time to clean up just a little bit. So we're just going to want to push this down into all the sides, get it somewhat of the same level all the way across the dish. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really too much matter. All right. So there we go. Sorry about the noise. All right. So into the sink you go. So as you can see, I just kind of flattened it out, and it's looking great. It really is. So let's, since we've got a little bit of time on the oven, let's go ahead and actually cut some of these biscuits up, and we'll just kind of layer them around the outside. That'll kind of make it look kind of neat. I don't know. We'll see. I usually don't, but heck, why not? You know, all the other cooking shows, they do everything up so it looks real nice and neat and everything. Let's give that a shot, Nick. All right, so let's just layer all the way around the outside. Okay. Like I said, this biscuit dough, it turns out great almost every time. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, the recipe is so simple and easy. And sometimes the simple and easy recipes are the ones that work out the best. All right. So let's see what we can do here. We got one little spot there. All right. We're going to do a little bit of pizza dough. Then let's just go ahead and layer lengthwise. What this is, and the reason why I'm doing this is it just makes it a lot easier to cut into and get pieces out, honestly. I thought I'd give it a shot one time, and now seems to be that right time. All right. So we'll just layer it in there. All right, let's see if we got enough. Oh, got plenty. Got plenty. All right, let's just make some extra big ones in a couple spots. Oh, there's our oven. Let's do that there. Little pieces that we can pick off, maybe. Yeah, I guess I'm a little ways off from the cooking shows. All right, let's go ahead and get this in the oven. The oven preheater just went off. Let's just go ahead and throw it right on in the oven. Okay, now we're going to leave that in the oven for about 15 minutes, or 12 to 15 minutes. But in my experience, it's always usually been the later part, the 15 minutes. And we'll come back and go ahead and check out the biscuits and see how brown they are on top. That's what we're looking for, a nice brown biscuit on the top. So we'll be back as soon as it's ready. And you can see that the biscuits on top are starting to brown up nicely. All right, let's go ahead and get this over here. We'll get some on a plate so you can see what the inside looks like. And then we'll let you get on back to your night or day, depending on when you're watching this video. Make sure you turn off the oven. All right, there we go. So let's get a spatula or a flipper, depending on what you call it. And what we're going to do is just going to break the biscuits up. And you can see I put these biscuits up on top. They're real nice, flaky. Oh, steam rolling out of them. All right, let's go ahead and get a plate here. So, like I said, it doesn't stick to the bottom because it's nice and wet underneath there. Alright. Get a little bit more of that filling down there. Put it right next to it. this is my wife's family recipe for skillet runza. All right, have a good night.